Shame. Shame. Shame.
Going on, people. Your host, you know who it is. Make sure we are glitches. We're notorious for that. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Yes, it is time to actually have this stream that I've been wanting to have. Yes, it is time to actually have this stream that I've been wanting to have. Yes, it is time. Let me turn this down and take the echo out of here. All right, people, what's up? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Shame TV, East Watch.
Shame.
Hope you guys come and enjoy yourselves.
Shame.
I really do. Today we're going to be talking about matriarchy. Hold on, let me get my little cord straight here. A factual look. So I wanted to have this conversation, so we're gonna have it. We're gonna talk about authors. Are they responsible for confusion? And we're also going to talk about Black relationship fails. Just for a little bit, we're going to listen to some audio on the Black relationship fails. We're going to actually play a little bit of audio for that one and have like a little listen. But for the matriarchy thing, what up, Shadow, Triple C? For the matriarchy thing, what we're going to do is actually screen share and read a little bit and talk about it a little bit. No one's been going live lately a lot, man. I've been wanting to. I really have. I've just been up to doing other shit. It's the first time I'm actually using my headset. You on the phone? Triple C, I actually use my headset tonight. It's usually laying on the floor somewhere or some shit, or I don't even be paying the shit no mind. So let's get ready to get into it. Everybody who's coming in could just come in. Hold on. Because I got a screen share, guys. I hope everybody has had a wonderful day so far. Hopefully we can continue that this evening with this discussion. Before we even get started, I want all the sisters out there to know that you should know by now I don't engage in bashing, so I want you to recognize this is a factual discussion. This has nothing to do with me wanting to push a specific agenda. The only agenda that I actually want to push is facts. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to have information. I'd like to not only have information, I'd like to have what is called factual information. So when we're dealing with certain things, for example, tonight we're talking about matriarchy. I just want everyone to realize we're using encyclopedia.com that I'm not minimizing matriarchy to this particular discussion. I'm not minimizing matriarchy to just what I think about it, to what these specific authors that you'll hear tonight, their take on it. I'm not going to minimize it specifically to that. Hold on. It's one of them things playing. Hold on. Let me fix this. But yeah, let me fix this real quick. I'm not gonna minimize anybody's position with matriarchy, and I'm not here to bash women. I'm not here to bash men. I'm not here for any of that shit. I'm just here to share information. So I hope everybody recognizes that's what's actually going on. But hold on, let me get to my channel real quick so that I could actually see the chat. I'm gonna have to do it on my phone. So I can actually see the chat. Okay, there we go. Good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome. True Forum, what up? All right, guys. Now I'm ready. Chemo. Welcome, welcome, people. Let's get it in. Now it's time to screen share again. And hopefully we can not have the same bullshit happen. All right, let's go, guys. For some time, I have been going into a private study concerning matriarchy. Now, for those of you guys who know me, I don't run around and book drop or name drop. I just, because I don't study like that. I study everything, articles, books, etc., lectures, whatever. So whatever it is, why the fuck does that keep doing that? Hold on. Whatever it is, I use everything, whether it's just conversation, quotes from doctors, etc., etc. It doesn't fucking matter to me. So whatever it is, I use it. Now, I've been looking into this for a long, long time now. Okay, it's been a long, long time that I've been behind the scenes looking into matriarchy. And what had me looking into it was I hear it so much. And all I know about it is the common assumptions and the common knowledge about it, meaning what you've heard other people talk about and the little bit of limited information that you hear. Generally, the information is not a historical text, but is given as historical text. I guess, did I say that right? So I wanted to know when and where because I keep hearing we need to go back to a matriarchal society. We need to go back to a matriarchal society. We need to go back to a matriarchal society where women ruled. We need to go back to a society where women were blah, 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 blah. So that's what I keep hearing. So I'm like, okay, I hear some women who talk about it. They'll openly say things like, no, a matriarchal society is not where a woman completely, where a man has no rights whatsoever, or et cetera, or whatever. But women are the ones who are actually ruling. So when, hold on a second. Okay. So when you hear things like that, some of us, like myself, I want to know where and when were these things happening? Where and when was a matriarchal society existing and everything was peaceful? Everything was hunky-dory. There were no wars. There were no rumors of wars. There was none of this stuff. And then in came the evil patriarchal society. And when the evil patriarchy society came in, it's like, okay, now here comes evil. So if we just go back to this matriarch society, to a matriarchy, then everything will be peaceful and hunky-dory. Now, the problem I have with that, which you guys know me, the problem I have with stuff like that is it's just like when people say, when certain people will run around saying that Masons are evil. Well, I'm like, well, just because they're a Mason, that person is evil? What about other people who ain't Masons who do evil shit? Like, what about them? Then I was talking about when certain people were talking about Muslims, where all Muslims are evil. If you're a Muslim, you are evil. So it doesn't matter if that Muslim doesn't commit evil acts. The mere fact that they're a Muslim, now they're evil, shit like that. So when it kind of started to get into the realm of it's all patriarch. If it wasn't for the patriarch society, this male, like, and me and Root used to go back and forth about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't for this patriarchal society, none of this stuff would be happening. None of this stuff would be going on. Everything, blah, 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 blah. So I said, well, I would like to know factually. That's why I said this is a factual look. Meaning, who, what, when, where, how, why, you know what I'm saying? What, all that shit. I want to know who were these women who were running everything. I would like to know how. I would like to know when. Like, when means a specific time. Because everything that I find about a factual or some sort of evidence of a matriarchal society, it merely means an equal society. It had nothing to do with women, in particularly ruling. Like that, it was from the little bit that I found. Like that's why I use this specific article, because when I read it, it was the only thing that kind of touched on everything that I've found in the last month or so. And I'm like, yo, it's everything that I read and everything that I see. It's like the evidence says that a matriarchal society, or what people are calling a matriarchal society is nothing but an equal society. It's not women are in charge and we gotta submit to the queen mother and all. It had nothing to do with that. What it had to do with is you submitting to one another. It's not a somebody rules thing. It's like in most societies, or what are deemed matriarchal societies, or what are being called that, and we're going to get into that, what are deemed and what are being called matriarchal societies.
Shame.
because we don't like that.
Shame.
We don't like when things are being called something. We want, especially when we're having a factual discussion. I want to know for sure. So let's get ready to get into it. Matriarchy. Hold on.
So we got rid of them. And that made our paint color more durable, more fade resistant.
I'm so sick of this shit popping up on my thing, man.
Exclusive Gen X color technology. So now there's less standing between you.
Okay, here we go. Matriarchy is usually defined as a political system in which women are the dominant political actors, as opposed to patriarchy, in which men are the exclusive or primary heads of families, social groups, or political states. But matriarchy has always been a controversial term, since whenever it is mentioned, there are debates about whether matriarchies are imagined utopias or real societies. Whether they existed at some time in the distant past or could be recreated in a possible future, and how the definitions of gendered power themselves might have shifted in relation to varying social or historical contexts. The idea of matriarchy has served to inspire a whole series. Now listen, a whole series of legends and myths, experiments in alternative lifestyles, feminist spirituality, and woman-centered collectives. But it has long been rejected with mainstream anthropology. Okay? Meaning we don't have no historical evidence of Wakanda. You know what I'm saying? Where all the chicks was doing all that stuff. Now, does that not mean that there can't be a ruling queen of Wakanda? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying this idea of where women ruled, then nothing was going on, or when women ruled, period. Because if nothing was going on and everything was peaceful and we can actually show and prove this shit, like, yo, I'm telling you right now, I'll be all for matriarchies. I'll be all for matriarchies. I would be all for it. So let's continue. Because I just wanted to point that out. A whole series of legends and myths. Okay? Because there's nothing that I can find, but we'll go into that. In the early 21st century, new field research in Indonesia, Melanesia, and China has raised new questions about the definition of the term itself and reinvigorated debates about when, if ever, it can be used responsibly. Because we have whole groups of people who will run around and tell you that, yo, when the Queen Mother was doing this and the goddess was in control, like there was the only thing she was more and she was in control of more was merely just herself. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a total, because the man was in control of himself and she was in control of herself. Not so much as men being in control of other men and over all the women. You see what I'm saying? Okay, 19th century evolutionary theory. This is J.J. Bakofen. Okay, J.J. Bakofen began the modern debate about matriarchy. Okay, so I don't know whether the fuck this actual person, J.J. Bakofen, was the first human to start talking about and debating, because if he couldn't have been, if he was debating other people, it had to be debating other people who were of like mind or somewhat like mind. But anyway, J.J. Bakofen is accredited, let's say that, but I'm going to be honest to what I'm reading. J.J. Bakofen began the modern debate about matriarchy with his 1861 book on Mother Right, in which he argued that one early social formation, okay, was a family which traced descent through the mother. and in which government of the state was also entrusted to the woman. Now, we've heard things like this from, again, people like Root and right, Triple C. They were doing it together, but I'm gonna get to that at the end. Like, because for real, matriarchy is not even, it don't even exist. Patriarchy, you can say kind of exists by the definition of the term. It does exist. So patriarchy is still not necessarily a good thing. Now, whether we go to a polar opposite, that's a whole nother question as well. We're not supposed to be going to a polar opposite. You see what I'm saying? It's unity. Anyway, Bakofen began the debate with in 1861 with his book Mother Right, in which he argued that one early social formation was a family which traced descent through the mother, which I agree with somewhat factually. Things I found factually at one time, yes, you trace descent through the mother. It kind of makes sense to me to do that because that's who's actually, even though she's using the imprint, which I call it is just an imprint from the father, she's actually producing you from her physical body, not necessarily from his physical body. His imprint is on you, which is why you will probably look like him and get his DNA or whatever. But at the same time, the physical body that's producing you is her. You see what I'm saying? So it kind of makes sense to me. And in which government of the state was also entrusted to the women. Now, that statement, does he mean entrusted to women or does he mean entrusted solely to women? That I could not discover. So anyone could look at that how you want to look at it. Bakofen developed a three-stage model in the barbaric or heteristic stage from the Greek hetero, meaning both. Neither men nor women had control, okay? Neither men nor women had control, and people engaged in indiscriminate sexual activity, worshiping Aphrodite and valuing the erotic above all else. The women tired of this system and banded together for their own defense, creating a matriarchy in which Artemis and Athena emerged as the main deities. Okay, agriculture was developed during this period, and so were the stories of Amazons and Furies. Okay, Bakofen argued that matriarchal people feel the unity of all life, the harmony of the universe. Okay, that's whatever. So before we continue, let's talk on that for a second. Because I had a private conversation with somebody about that, about the Amazons and things of that nature. Because as far as I knew, if I ever wanted to obtain factual information about the Amazons and how they lived and their culture and etc., I thought that information was somewhere readily available. I had just never been interested enough in it to go look it up because I'm not a woman, so I don't not actually glorifying over the Amazons as far as study goes. So when the matriarchal stuff started popping up, that's what made me start looking into Amazons. Like, yo, I want to see when were these sisters out here, kicking ass and being, dominating shit and running shit. And not in a way where I'm looking to disprove it. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying. But it's like, it's showing what these authors are doing, or these writers are doing, are trying to attach a time period to when these thoughts actually started to appear. And then the things that, were birthed from them, the stories that were birthed from them, the legends that were birthed from these things. Okay, here we go. Where we are right here. Bakofen argued that the matriarchal people feel the unity of all life and harmony in the universe and embrace the philosophy of regulated naturalism, in which maternal love was the basis of all social ties. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that per se. I know I don't personally. In the final stage of the development of civilization, men seized control from women, and their struggle to assert their domination was reflected in stories of Zeus triumphing over the Titans, Hades raping, who is that? Persephone? Perseus, slaying the Perseus, okay, slaying the Medusa. Um, who is that? Oedipus killing the Sphinx. Bakofen interpreted mythical accounts of sexual conflict as evidence for historical transition from matriarchy to patriarchy. Now, none of that he said was factual, though, and I want everyone to realize that there was not a time period where he proved and showed where women were doing all this and then it was just seized. But there was a time period where we were all living equally, and then it was seized. Mm-hmm. Property rights. This is about matrilineal descent. Origin of private matriarchy developed from a situation of group marriage in which paternity was uncertain, so only female. This one I like. Okay, Friedrich Engels developed a materialist version of this theme in The Origin of the Family, Private Property and the State, 1884. Here we go. Arguing that matriarchy developed from a situation of group marriage in which paternity was uncertain, so only female bloodlines could be traced reliably. So with this person now, here we go with another author. What this author is trying to convince you of and convince you and I of is this. That there's some time, he's not naming who and who these actual people are, some of the names of the group, some of the places where they lived, frequented, etc., but we'll exclude all that right now for the sake of what we're doing. He's trying to say that there was these groups of people who engaged in what is called group marriage. Okay, where you have, let's say, 3 men and 8 women or whatever. I guess the number could be vice versa. It could be equal, whatever, in which the men are just having sex with all the women and the women are having sex with the men that are there. So that when the women are becoming pregnant by these men, no one can tell. We all heard that line before, mama's baby, papa's baby. No one actually knows for sure who the father is. You just know it comes from somebody in the group. You assume you know. And so you were tracing, everything was being traced through the female's bloodline. Because again, I said that from the beginning, you actually coming out of her body. The males are just the men. We're just laying the blueprint, or the imprint. It's like putting a piece of paper on a copying machine, and for real, the paper is coming out of the machine. You know, the woman is the machine. She's the one who's doing all the work. She takes the paper, the imprint, and makes your son. And there's that little you walking around. Early human societies were presumed to have been egalitarian, and various forms of inequality were introduced in conjunction with the emergence of private property, which makes sense, but it doesn't, because people always claim things. I don't think there's a time on earth when people haven't claimed shit. So, but anyway, I'll continue. When property rights came to be invested in men, the development of patriarchy was tied to the birth of capitalism, in which laborers were no longer the owners of the products of their labor. Okay? Don't agree, but I'm just reading to let you guys know we're still not addressing anything factually. All right? These authors, these people are giving their opinions about something. And remember that I brought you guys up here so that we can have a factual discussion about matriarchy, where it existed, where these women were, what they were called, how did the men live, the men who were totally put in the place of women, basically, is what their people were saying. Anthropologists working on comparative evidence from a number of societies tried to develop a more rigorous definition of matriarchy. E.B. Tyler grouped matrilineal descent with post-marital residence in the wife's household and evidence that the wives are the masters, okay, in the family, page 89 of his book, and describe the, what is it, Minangkabau, the Minangkabau of the Indonesia as one possible matriarchy. He later reconsidered this position and decided, he reconsidered this position and decided that the term maternal family would be preferable to matriarchy. Okay, get out of here. I don't want to add to matriarchy since it takes too much for what? Granted that the women govern the family. It's assuming way too much. He knew that to say that it's assuming way too much. It's assuming you can't just assume that these women are totally in control, because a lot of them were being used by the men to gain power, which they're not talking about that right there. Lewis Henry Morgan's intensive studies of the Iroquois documented political institutions in which women played important roles. In his Ancient Society of 1877, formed the basis of Ingalls speculations. So here we're getting Friedrich Engels, where Friedrich Engels was basically where he was inspired. Remember the second part of this live stream, authors. Okay? So this is, now we're talking about the person who made an imprint on Friedrich Engels and the way he started to see feminism. Not feminism, matriarchal societies. All right? All right. But as more field studies of matrilineal societies were completed, few of them seem to have anything approaching female rule over men. So when they were studying, basically when Henry Morgan was studying the Iroquois, which is of course our people, shout out to the indigenous peoples, what he found is what I keep saying. He says what? Women played important roles, meaning all the roles that men played in the society, you could find a woman playing a role like that too. So it wasn't just all the men were judges. Okay? You can't do that. You can't say all the men were judges because it was women judges. You can't say all the women were doctors because they were, or healing people because women were healing people. You see what I'm saying? It was an equal society. There was no evidence of women rule, of the godmother being over anyone. I'm just saying, G. This is Dave Snyder in Matrilineal Kinship. Dave Snyder re-examined several decades of scholarship on, here we go with another author. Dave Snyder re-examined several decades of scholarship on the subject and concluded that the generalized authority of women over men imagined by Bachofen was never observed in known matrilineal societies, but only recorded in legends and myths, like the Amazons, etc. Thus, the whole notion of matriarchy fell rapidly into disuse in anthropological work. Sorry. And that's what I've been finding universally. Like, nobody has anything factually for that. The possibility of matriarchy was also denied in one of the founding texts of feminist anthropology, Michelle Rosaldo. Okay, and what's this? Louise Lanphiers. Okay, because I heard of her before, but not her. Women, Culture, and Society, 1974, which started with an infamous and later retracted assertion of the universality of male dominance. It seems fair to say that, it seems fair to say then that all contemporary societies are to some extent male dominated. And although the degree and expression of female subordination vary greatly, sexual asymmetry is presently a universal fact of human and social life. Basically, meaning that the same way you hear all these dudes running around saying the black woman is God, the black woman is God, you're still doing the same thing, because your main point, everything, if you listen to them, is her reproduction, her sexual reproduction. She must be, she's the key and she's God because she's replenishing you, basically, is what you're trying to say, and nothing more, really. 20 years after that statement was published, several contributors to the Rosaldo and Lanphier book specifically recanted this assertion, but none of them went so far as to embrace the idea of matriarchy. Now, these are historians. None of them are embracing matriarchy. Now, we're not trusting them because we don't know these people or their allegiance, etc. But we're not going there right now. We're just saying that nobody is accepting it because there's no evidence to accept factually. That's why I call this a factual look at matriarchy, the matriarch myth. Okay, embrace the idea of matriarchy. Sherry Ortner writes that in the early 1970s, when interest in feminist anthropology began to grow, she and many other anthropologists were asked about matriarchies. Was it not the case? People wanted to know that there were societies in which women had the kind of powers and authority men have in our own society. With a reasonable degree, okay? I just wanted y'all to get this again. Was it not the case? People wanted to know that there were societies in which women had the kind of powers and authority men have in our own society. That is the main claim of a matriarchal society. The whole point of a matriarchal society is that the same powers in which men hold now, women are the ones who held that power. And again, you hear the stories how Earth was so tranquil and beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And there were no such thing as wars, but there were warriors and soldiers and warrior queens and shit. But it just doesn't make sense. What is this other? There's two other women I want to have you read from, and then we're gonna move on. Yeah, right. Okay, here we go. Joan Bamberger's contribution to women, culture, and society argues specifically that myths and legends about female rule were told not because they reflected a previous history of matriarchy, as Bachofen believed, Okay, so he's telling you not that they reflected a previous history of matriarchy, but instead as social charters for male dominance. Looking in some detail at a series of myths about the rule of women in Amazonian societies, she found that the myths themselves justify the rule of men through the evocation of a vision of a catastrophic alternative, because that's what it's doing. A society dominated by women is going to the polar opposite. It's not even changing the narcissism of rule. The people who want to rule and how they're generally narcissists and how they're generally not, good people. This is like basically what I'm saying. The myth in its reiteration that women did not know how to handle power when in possession of it reaffirms dogmatically the inferiority of their present position. Meaning, if women were ruling and everything was so wonderful, why would we fuck up something that was so wonderful? Why did men, that's basically what she's saying. Men stole the sacred objects that gave women supernatural power, and women have since been forever the subjects of the male terrorism. Hold on. Of male terrorism, so that these myths of matriarchy are in fact arguments for patriarchy. And that's in her words. All right. It's one more. If you guys want to read it, I would love for you to read it yourselves. Just go as encyclopedia.com. Because I want to read from this one Mariah Gimbutas. Okay. All right. We're going to start here. Here it is. The terms. My fault, guys. This hits home right here. All right. I want y'all to see that right there. Okay, now let's read. These terms have not been widely adopted, and they are based off the work of Mariah Gimbutas, who has excavated hundreds of female figurines from the period allegedly 7,000 to 3,500 BCE. Okay, which she interprets as mother goddesses. Now we know where you got this from, Root. Several archaeologists, such as Ruth Tringham and Margaret Conkey, have argued that her interpretations are highly speculative, but they have had tremendous popular appeal. And her ideal of an early cult of fertility deity represented as a large, possibly pregnant woman has been widely disseminated. Gimbutas writes critically of the indolent assumption that ancient societies must have resembled those of the present, and presents her own theory that these figurines were produced by groups of people who socially formed, she describes as matristic, basically matriarchal. But this is what she said. Okay? This is what she said. This is Maria Gimbutas, the woman who brought us mother goddesses and the mother goddess and all of this stuff. All right? This is what she said about her own, about matriarchal societies, period. And in her own mother goddess shit, in a sense. Indeed. Okay, indeed. we do not find in old Europe, nor in all of the old world, a system of autocratic rule by women with an equivalent suppression of men. Rather, we find, listen, a structure in which the sexes are more or less on equal footing. The sexes are linked rather than hierarchical, ranked. I use the term matristic simply to avoid the term matriarchy. What did I say? It's the same thing. With the understanding that it incorporates, what is that, matrilineal. So Maria Gimbutas herself, the mother goddess herself, Root, says indeed she cannot find anywhere, as far as evidence goes, of women ruling men, other than if you were at a certain job, no different than now, and a woman just so happened to be your fucking supervisor. Shame TV Eastwatch. This is, let me get ready to go back to my chat real quick. I'm gonna stop this because I'm ready to actually talk to you guys and see what the fuck is going on. Hold on. So anyway, I just wanted to go over that real quick. I had more, but I'm not gonna bag everybody down with that today because we got a couple more things that we need to jump on. Because I can't be up here all night. But I just wanted to have a closer look at matriarchy, man, a factual look, you know, and that ties right into the next topic, which we're gonna probably breeze through. But what up, D Prince? Which we're gonna breeze through. But authors are authors responsible for confusion. Now, I read from many different authors tonight their takes on one subject. Now, not only do you have certain authors who have certain opinions about this subject, these authors have so strong opinions that they create books and write them about these subjects. Now, the confusing part is these same authors then will retract the same information from the same book that they put out. You have one subject and you will have 10 authors, and you can literally have 10 different opinions about that one subject. We know that, especially most Black people, we know that dealing with Christianity, because that's where most of us was raised if you grew up in this country. And you knew you could hear one Bible verse but have 20 people tell you 20 different things about that same one Bible verse. But a lot of times, what they won't agree on is that none of them factually know anything about it for real. So when I was reading the information about matriarchal societies, it appeared to me that most of the people who talk about it and most of the people who write about it, the people who are authors, these people who are actually writing about it, they really don't really know shit about it either, because they don't have any facts to produce to show where it was working successfully or where it didn't work, how it worked. Like I said, how did the men react to this? What was their daily life like? There's no information floating around for any of that. There's no information. So we have to now ask the question, guys. Are authors responsible for confusion? What up, Dark Man? Peace, peace. And I'm going to read this one more time for the people who just came in, because a few people have just come in. And this one right here is from Maria Gimbutas. She was a lead author on Matriarchy Societies, an excavator, etc. extraordinaire. And I'm gonna I'm gonna screen share real quick so you guys can see it yourselves. Okay. Mother Goddess. The work of Maria Gimbutas, who has excavated hundreds of female figurines. Okay, from the period of 7,000 to 3,500 BCE, which she interprets. Okay, this is just her off the top of her dome. Maria Gimbutas. She interprets as mother goddesses. Okay. Yes, it is. Yes, Norma. It is very subjective. And that's really the point of why I'm doing this. Just so because there's a lot of people, and y'all know how we was going at it with Root, and he was bashing you because talking about you disrespect the mother goddess, she was ruling, and if she rules, and if this was a matriarchal society, well then you tell me when it was a matriarchal society, because even the historians who write about matriarchal societies came out and said that they cannot attach it to anthropology. It cannot be attached to real, actual, factual, historical excavations and findings of reality. Maria Gimbutas was the one who was pushing the mother goddess stuff for a long time. Several archaeologists, such as Ruth Tringham and Margaret Conkey, have argued that her interpretations, which they were nothing more than interpretations, are highly speculative, but they have had tremendous popular appeal. So therefore, with the popular appeal, everybody else just says, fuck it. But this is what Maria Gimbutas says herself. Indeed, we do not find in old Europe, nor in all the old world, a system of autocratic rule by women with an equivalent suppression of men. Rather, we find a structure in which the sexes are more or less on equal footing. The sexes are linked rather than a hierarchy. There's no hierarchy there. So she's trying to play word games and call it matriarch or just still trying to add that to it. But she knows that she cannot find, though she makes these little figurines and colors them and cleans them up and sells them or do whatever she does to them, the mother goddesses, which I have no problem with that, whatever you're doing with them. I'm just saying she admitted that there's no factual evidence of an actual autocratic system of rule by women, where they rule the same way that a patriarch society rules today. So when you hear people say the term matriarchal society, you have to now realize that they're not talking about what they trying to push, that they're talking about like women rule, because that didn't exist. Matriarchal society, or what is called matriarchal societies, are equal rules. And the only reason that we have this confusion, here we go back again to the gods, authors, because you have so many different people writing so many different things about the same subject. But in this subject, the common denominator is facts. And the common denominator in all the authors, including the ones who have a mass appeal with it, like Maria Gimbutas, like her shit is popping. Mother, who don't say the mother goddess right now in the conscious community? All them dudes who run around saying the black woman is God, every single one of them will adhere to any mother goddess talk. But I just showed you where she said herself that, yo, my work is speculative, basically. Speculative. This is not factual. There was no place where we can point to where the Amazon actually possibly was, because that's where I was looking for first. When I was like, where were factually was the place that is recognized as the place that held the Amazons, the land that held the Amazons? Where is this? So couldn't find anything. So I think that authors are responsible indeed for confusion because we have to rely on them. And as long as we have to rely on them for the information, the way that people rely on them, we'll never get anywhere because they're not going to do shit but spread fucking confusion. That's it. Shane TV Eastwatch, give me 2 seconds. Standard break.
On January 1st, 2018, the government will start killing all mentally challenged and retarded people. I started crying when I thought about you. Run, my retarded friend, run!
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Shane TV Eastwatch. I'm back. Hold on, guys. Let me go to my little audio here. Now, I'm gonna play a little audio about black relationship fails, but I'm not gonna do it today because my stream has already reached my limit of an hour, and I only wanted to do a stream for an hour, and that's what I did. That was just a joke that I was playing at the end, y'all. Just fucking off with y'all. Shame TV Eastwatch, man. I've had fun. I hope that my sisters understand where I came from with this stream, that I'm not bashing nobody. I don't do the bashing of the bodies. I also want y'all to know that Darkman X started a new website, so I want y'all to go check it out. He was talking about it today on his live stream while I was preparing for this, so I was in and out of his streams, but it sounded wonderful to me, especially he was talking about a place where everybody can come together and pretty much share and push their products that they sell, their ideas and things of that nature, and I'm like super down for all of that shit, bro. So make sure you guys go check it out. But I just want you guys to know, man, I when I do a factual look at things, like I said, I'm just going by the information. And if a matriarchal society is the best thing for us, if a matriarchal societies existed and they were the best things for us, then I have no problem with continuing with it. You know what I'm saying? But if I can't find no evidence of it, and when I do find evidence, I find that what you're saying and what's being pushed is not exactly what's going on. Meaning, like, all the evidence that I found say, like, yo, be together. You guys are supposed to be equal. You guys are supposed to be equal. You guys are supposed to be equal. Not the man's supposed to rule and dominate. Or, no, we supposed to rule and dominate. Like, no, it's none of that. So for all people who or on the side of, I think the man should be the one who does everything and dominate and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't even say that. History doesn't say that about our cultures and our societies. All right, Shadow. It doesn't say that about about our society and the way we function and the way we got along with one another. History does not say that. History says that a patriarchal society was not how shit was popping with us. And it also says that the concocted, handed to us matriarchal society. Okay? All right, bro. Truth. That doesn't exist either. So we're going to have to start keeping it really real, y'all. Now, if anyone has anything factually to add, please leave it in the comment section. I will go over it again. Shadow Assassin, Norma, FRZ, welcome. Aboriginal Leo, welcome. Thank you for stopping through. Zoo, Darkman XTV, D Prince, photography and video. Thank you for stopping through. Sugar and Spice, Yonana, or excuse me, Yonana. I'm saying it right. Yes, Real. I better have said it right. Thank you for coming through again, hun. Triple CZTVZs. Chemo stopped through earlier. Everybody that came through, appreciate the love. Love y'all much. And I'm getting out of here right now. Please be looking out for the Real Fraud Department. If I have time tonight, I will be going live from that channel. So, and we're gonna be getting it in about SOS shit. Why we ain't heard nobody talking about no SOS shit and explaining why you were stealing from people, all that shit, or allegedly stealing, whatever the case may be. We're going to get into all that on the Real Fraud Department. We're going to get into people's real hate for them dumbass black women. You heard them. We know who said that, them dumbass black women. All he appealing to is them dumbass black women. Then we see that giant hand. That's not a sister's hand. Now we know why you think they dumb. What up, Darren? Yeah, please listen to it again. It's not long. It's just an hour. So the Real Fraud Department is where we get into stuff like that. So Shame TV East Watch. We don't do that here. Peace, people.